the challenges that health tech startups face while raising capital. By advocate Gil Solomon, Gil Solomon Co.
Hello everyone, so happy to be here. It's an amazing event. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this amazing ecosystem, and thank you to 𝐷 and MedTech for organizing such an amazing event. So without further ado, I'll just like to present myself. My name is, as said, Gil Solomon. I own Gil Solomon Company, a law firm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. We work with a lot of MedTech clients. Before becoming a lawyer, I was a part of the MedTech industry working in Philips Healthcare, developing CT scanners and PET CT scanner as a senior software tester. Before that, I was actively engaged in that field as well. Now, I've been working with MedTech startups and pharmaceutical companies for the last couple of years at least. We've been working with Neuroderm, we've been working with Compugen, and other companies that lead this field in all sorts of practices. So, without further ado, now this time for real, I want to present the topic, the challenges that health tech startups face when raising capital, and more importantly, when going to the market. Now, it's important to say the following is a non-exhaustive list. There are way more challenges that are tailor-made and hardships that are tailor-made and are directed directly into the model of each and every startup. The following is only the general ones, and probably the main ones. So, first and foremost, the biggest problem when asking in 2017, in a study by Emergo, a 2017 study by Emergo showed that the biggest issue faced by executives of MedTech companies is regulatory oversight and scrutiny. In 2021, Deloitte had another survey asking MedTech startups and companies what their approach to the market would be with their products. And the desired approach by 76% of the people was either unregulated approach or lightly regulated approach, a 510(k) approach, that it's a form to the FDA, which we'll discuss in a minute, saying that the similar product out there in the market already, and I'm marketing a highly similar product. So as I said, when speaking about regulatory oversight, we're speaking about the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. We had a saying back in Philips, you do the FDA, you did everything. Once you approach the FDA, get their clearance, you're okay for most of the world. Most of the regulators will follow. So in order to approach the FDA, in order to get the FDA clearance, we need to obtain a high level of quality. We need to go through a lengthy process involving complex trials. And as I'll show in a minute, it's a highly expensive process with a very low degree of certainty. So unlike other startups and other companies that want to go to the market, let's say automotive companies, fintech companies, and others, where they can approach the market and go and market to clients and customers a minimum viable product. There's a whole movement called the Lean Startups movement that advocates the marketing of a minimum viable product, meaning a product with a minimum functionality required to operate with hardly all of its features, or even the majority of its features. So in medical startups, we can't do that. In medical companies, we are required to a high degree of quality. Medical startups are tested for reliability, for accuracy, consistency, quality, and other factors. And only in the end of the process can we market, after all the clearances have been accepted. So, and even then, by the way, even then, after we got the entire regulatory approvals, we still need to comply with additional regulatory regimes. For example, regulatory frameworks for privacy, patient privacy and general privacy, like GDPR and HIPAA. And, of course, in order to do that, we need to obtain investments, financing to get us through the process because, as I said, it's a lengthy process, an uncertain process, and a costly one. And the problem is that there's a really limited number of investors we can approach, because most investors are business people, and they're more comfortable in investing in other verticals, like fintech, enterprise software, and others. And the limited partners there are in this field find it sometimes hard to ascertain what the product market fit is. The product market fit is an important factor in judging an investment. And the problem is, as I said, some investors are business people, and not all the funds, for example, have a resident in-house physician that is able to help in that regard. And even if they do, such physician is not always working in that certain practice. For example, if they have an oncologist and I'm bringing in a fertility startup for an investment, that oncologist wouldn't really know the product market fit for it. A substantial investment is also required. It's not enough to get one or two investors that get in with a little ticket. A substantial investment is required to go through the entire process. For example, clinical trials are really expensive. Another thing is that even if I got the investment, we may need more money since delays may happen. For example, I'll give you an example about a company that went to clinical trials. I worked with it before, called 𝐌𝐞𝐝. 𝐌𝐞𝐝 was traded already on the NASDAQ, had a market cap on the day of its clinical trial release, of the phase 3 release, had a market cap of $330 million. Upon the release, the results were bad, obviously, and then the company dropped down to $30 million, which is the exact cash amount they had. So in that case, and by the way, the company went down, dead. So in that case, there's a huge problem in the delays that can be disastrous. Another challenge, and this is a challenge I got from a client of mine, because I approached them, all of them, or most of them at least, when preparing this presentation for you. A client of mine told me, you know, regulation is not so bad. I can do with regulation. The problem is the doctors. I can't deal with doctors. I mean, I can't approach them. They're too busy for me. And medical physicians tend to be too busy for ingenuity. They are so busy and so focused with reason, okay? With good reason. They're so focused on the medical practice rather than, you know, opening themselves up for new opportunities. Again, with good reason. Also, among the much older doctors, there's a conservative nature. They're conservative. Another thing is that there's a high degree of hardship to get clinical trial sites. Clinical trial sites is a hard thing to come by because A, there's a limited number of sites. B, even when you get the sites, you still need the PI, the principal investigator, the doctor in charge, to go along with your trial. You need to provide the interest or enough money to obtain it. And if you're a pharmaceutical company, then you're in risk of transporting materials. For example, take Pfizer. Pfizer already has the COVID-19 vaccination. And you need to transport it at least minus 70 degrees. If you transport it at minus 30, then the vaccination is damaged. So, I was so pessimistic until around, right? Now a few words of advice. First of all, to the doctors here who have a venture, know when to dumb down your venture. Know when to dumb down the need for your venture, for your product. Know how to explain the monetization. The monetization is the real thing that interests the investor. Regardless of the need for your product and the good you're about to make and how you're going to make the world a better place. Everybody knows that. But how the investors are going to make money is their first incentive. So know how to explain the monetization opportunity. Now, in that regard, I'll give you an example. I have an orthopedics company I'm working with, and when the founders came up to me, they told me, yeah, we have a good product. It deals with complex fractures, deals with all sorts of complex fractures, and saves a lot of pain and suffering for the patients. And I told them, okay, where's the money? So they tell me, we're saving operation room time, 80%. And now, if you are doctors or in the management of hospitals, you probably know the most expensive resource there is in hospitals is operation room time. And they're saving 80% when dealing with this kind of fractures, which is a lot, hours. So in that sense, I told them you should have started with that. Another thing is seek non-dilutive sources for financing. For example, foundations and governmental grants. Now, these kind of grants, for example, Neuroderm, which I've been working with, has obtained the financing from the �W𝐞𝐝-𝐴 Fund. The �W𝐞𝐝-𝐴 Fund is supporting ventures and researchers into Parkinson's disease, and they obtained a lot of money through them without diluting the equity of the company, giving a little bit of leeway to the founders, and in the end, higher incentive to obtain the income. Always focus on compliance. This one is basic, right? I've told you, that's the #1 issue. Have someone in your team who is in charge of compliance at all times. Without compliance, you won't go through clinical trials, and without compliance, you won't be able to market your product ever. You'll fail, and you miss your target miserably. Invest in patenting. Invest in your IP. A strong patent portfolio will get you far. A strong patent portfolio will protect you. You'll be more attractive to investors. And in addition, for example, take a company right now who's seeking investment. They make a lot of noise, right? At some point, the companies in the market, not just the investor, will get wind of their idea, of what they're doing, of what they wish to propose to the market. If they're not well protected, if they did not maintain confidentiality at all times, have an NDA in place when disclosing confidential information, have a patent for everything they do, then a larger, bigger player, a pharmaceutical company, a medical device company, can get into the market and beat you to the market with your own idea. I've seen it work, I've seen it happen. Another thing, and that's my last point, build a strong advisory team. A strong advisory board is not a must, but it's a really good thing to have, because advisory board can give you A, a lot of connections, B, clinical knowledge, and C, good advice to the board of directors, when the board of directors convenes to decide on something. Now, other than that, they can help you get clinical trial sites, which is important. So, I only had limited time, and it's only a part of the equation. And it's been great attending here, been great to be a part of this summit. And I just want to say thank you for being, again, thank you for being a part of this ecosystem, and thank you for organizing such an amazing event.